Welcome back to another dilemma. I'm Emma
And I'm Brian Burns.
Burns. And today we are going to be talking about what we want to tell recruiters from employees who have been through the recruiting process, which is kind of a long explanation, but basically what we look for in companies, what we look for when people reach out to us. Um, and I think it's just to give some insight to those looking for a job in this rough economy, as well as recruiters who are reaching out to people, and maybe some advice to them on what to include in that in order to pique their interests enough for them to want to take an interview with them.
Yeah, I think, during this economic downturn, a lot of companies are laying off. We're hearing a lot of that in the news. So we just thought we'd talk a little bit about it, and what employees can do, what candidates can do that are out looking for jobs, and what they should be looking for and how to interact with recruiters, right?
Um, no, so I think it's more so like what recruiters can do to reach out to employees. I mean, I guess, yeah, some of it would be employees because what we look for in companies.
Right.
Um, yeah, for sure. From that aspect, yes.
So then it would give a recruiter insight on what employees might be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So there's there's an article that you had sent me, that
Mm-hmm.
you were looking at, and these are things that employees look for in a job, right?
Yeah, so I can go over a few of them, or you can.
Well, I'll just read them off and then we can kind of go through them. How's that?
Okay.
So there's company history,
Mm-hmm.
company values,
Yep.
job location, work hours, salary, benefits, job responsibilities, and technology. Oh, those are all interesting. So tell me about company history. Why does that matter to an employee? Why would a candidate care about the history of a company?
I think that the company history is a great way to tell whether your values and morals are going to align, which is very important. I mean, the company
I think
values
that's
is
more of
second.
this.
So
Yeah,
company history is more so how it started, um, who started it, what they do. Um, it's kind of diving into the past, present, and future. So, for example, the company I work for, just a few years ago, we didn't really have the product we do today. We were known more for one segment of what we do. And now we are a very well-rounded company. We have a great CEO who actually sold the product we now sell to our company and then became the CEO. So I think it's diving into just, yeah, like where it began and how it's changed over time to understand what you're going to be doing and maybe what impact you'll be having moving forward.
well, I think too, like you want to know, how long's the company been around? Is it a brand new company? Are they just growing? Are they small? Have they done layoffs recently? Maybe they've gotten too big and now they're starting to have to downsize. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe there's been advancements that are helping it grow. Maybe, like in your case, maybe there's been advancements with other companies and it isn't keeping up. So
Mm-hmm.
you just want to look at some of those things, like, are they in growth mode? Are they expanding, or are they, downsizing? Are they, how long, I think who started the company too is good. Like, you think about people like Steve Jobs, and I think the CEO of your company, David Ossip, is a brilliant guy. Very, I used to
He's a
describe him
genius.
like a Steve Jobs, of the human capital management world. And so I'm going to
Yeah.
adjust my camera just a little
He's
bit.
kind of a in my opinion, he's a celebrity to to human capital management because not only is he a genius, but it's like taking, I mean, it's he's incredible. He
Yeah.
really is the Steve Jobs of HCM, just in the sense like he built this platform and now runs a company, and that's just it's not heard of
Yeah, and
normally.
he's done this before. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
several
created
with
other
several
products.
other things and sold them off and done very well.
Yeah.
Um, but to your point, I think that the company history, you want to know a little bit like, is it a startup? How fast has it grown? Within what period of time? Have they
Right.
had like, have they gone through big transitions in the past? Um,
So you're wanting to know, like, if I'm planning to be with this company for a long time,
yeah,
then I want a company that's going to be around for a long time. You
yeah,
know, so you're looking at some of those things. I mean,
the
they aren't
longevity of it.
they aren't the only factor, but they are a factor, right? It's
And
things like
sometimes it can be good to work for companies who are startups because although it's a little bit more risky in the sense of you might not have as great health benefits or XYZ, it's not as stable of a job, you'll have a big impact in the beginning. And
right.
sometimes that can be really great, especially if you know the people who are starting it and know that it's going to go somewhere. So
Yeah,
it
and
really
that
just
also
depends, but that's
it
something to
does
know.
it depends on where you're at in your career. You may be looking for something like that. And in my case, kind of the later stages of my career, I might not be interested in, starting over again. But who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe I am. And that's the other thing is like, my CEO has done a great job of taking companies um, that are in a really good position to grow and growing them and taking them to that next level. And so that's kind of his niche, and my manager has done it, been really good at taking a sales organization that maybe isn't fully developed yet and putting all those processes in place, and that's kind of his niche, so you got
hmm
to kind of know where what you're looking for.
Yeah, I actually think that the beginning of your career and not necessarily the end of your career, but for example, I don't have like kids, I don't have a like husband that are relying on me to bring home the money. So maybe a startup uh, would be something I'm interested in now. And for you, your kids are out of the, for most part, your kids are out of the house, they have their own jobs, they're bringing home their own money. So now is another great time if
To
you
take
wanted to.
risks.
But yeah, to take risks. But not to say we actually we love our jobs, but just for those
Yeah.
who are thinking about, what stages, any time is good, but those are, in
Right.
my opinion, two of the best. So then the next one would be company values, and that's kind of what I touched on in when I was talking about company history in the beginning of it. But in my opinion, looking at the company values is crucial to deciding where you want to be because if your values don't align, then you're not going to be very happy working at the company and you're going to try to constantly be making changes that the company has already stated is not changes that they want to make. And that can create a lot of rift within your job. So I think it's really important not only for recruiters to hire people with similar values and similar history, but also for people looking for a job to identify what is important to that company and whether it aligns with them.
I like that. I think it is important when you and I have done some sessions on goal setting and vision statements and things like that. I don't know if we've done vision statement, but we've done goal setting and vision boards and things. So I think it's important that those kinds of things do line up.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a company that doesn't align with what your personal values are, then you know you don't you don't want to be fighting that. You don't want to be
No.
frustrated all the time because it's going in a direction that you're not comfortable with. So you know those are things to consider. Again, it's not the only factor, but it's a factor to consider.
Yep.
Another
I
one
think
I
I think it's really interesting when people come in uh into positions and they take their previous history and they try to implement it in this new role. And in my opinion, you shouldn't be looking for a new role if you're satisfied with your career. And you shouldn't be looking to bring over what you learned from a different company into the new organization. You should be willing to adapt what the new organization has set out and determine whether you will be a good fit for that prior to moving over instead of um, creating this change that the organization doesn't want.
Yeah, unless, I mean, I know it's a lot of times, they hire you for a reason. Maybe they want you to bring some of that, but that's where you have to really ask the right questions in interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So job location,
Mhm.
that's an interesting one in these days, right? In
Yep.
this environment, because I think one of the biggest things that occurred during COVID is that more and more people are working from home and more people are doing virtual meetings. And like like we're doing right now, you're in Arizona, I'm in California,
Mhm.
and we're talking to each other and having this, it's still pretty efficient. So I think the job location can be important, but just asking the question, like, are you expecting me to go in the office? Like when you did your internship, they wanted you in the office in St. Petersburg, and so you had to make a decision, right? Like, is this something I'm willing to do?
Mhm.
Move to St. Petersburg for a year, whatever that was.
I think that that's also something that's a thing, not a thing in the past. I think remote work is still very prevalent, especially for some positions. But I do think that a lot of jobs or recruiters are looking for people to be in the office. And so that's more important than ever to ask those questions. Are you looking for remote work? Are you looking for what's when you work part-time in office, part-time virtual? That's
Oh,
called,
like a blended. I don't think it's called blended. I can't think of
it's
it.
on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, we'll think of it. Um,
Um, but a lot of people, they're willing to do relocation packages or XYZ. So it's just important to ask those ask those questions and also understand what your wants are out of a job and where you want to be permanently. And if you're,
well, if your family lives in one state and they want you to live in another to do the job, then you need to make have those discussions and see if that's even something that's possible. Because you don't want to go down a path and get an offer and realize that you're not willing to relocate or move, and then you got a problem, right? So think about where the job's located and consider that's a consideration. The other thing is working hours. Again, with COVID and with working from home, and a lot of companies have gone to doing things that are more flexible hours. But maybe you're a night owl and you want a night job. Mm, Maybe like to work.
oh, it's called
Right?
hybrid. That's what it's called
Hybrid. Okay,
when you're working.
found it.
Yeah,
I saw you over there looking for something. Um,
I needed to know. Yeah, when you work hybrid.
Yeah, so that's part at work, part at home. I know a friend that does that and really loves it because it gives them that flexibility to some things at home, take care of business at home certain days of the week, as well as get their job done.
Well, even Megan, who just recently moved to San Diego, she actually had to be within a certain proximity of her work because they do require her to go into the office sometimes or just be in the area so that she can go to different conferences or stuff. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Mhm.
Um,
That's your friend Megan.
yeah.
What about salary and benefits?
Did we already talk about working hours?
I think, well, we touched on it. Yeah. Did you want to go into it a little more?
No, working hours is good. Understand what the requirements are. Because for me, like in being in St. Pete, the hours of work were completely different than being in California. So
Mhm.
just understand the different state rules.
Yeah, and
Um,
some companies will allow you to do things like working, work when you can, right? Like, so maybe you put in a couple hours in the morning and then you have a break and then you put in a few more hours. As long as you get the hours in and do your 8 hours for the day, for example, then they're fine with that. Other companies want you there from 8 to 5 or whatever that might be. You need to understand
yeah.
that so that it fits with your lifestyle and your expectations.
Yep. Salary. So this one's a big one. At least for us, it just varies because you can have a base and then you could have an OTE, which is included with your commission
What does OTE stand for, Emma?
on target earnings.
So what
So
does that mean?
that is like their expectation of you almost. It's to tell you where you should be. Yeah, it's to where you should be, like it
So
gives you
the
target
on
earnings.
target, what on target earnings is your salary plus your earnings, commission earnings or bonus earnings if you were to achieve 100% of your quota
Right, which is what they expect of
on
you is
target.
to achieve
Yeah.
100% because your OTE changes year to year based on your experience level with the company normally because your commission changes. So the on target earnings is 100%, which is what they expect. Over 100 is normally what we shoot for, but on target
Yes.
is what they're telling you. And that includes, yeah, your base along with your commission
Hmm.
or your bonuses, whatever.
Typical sales
And
job. This is how it's built.
yes, and so that is how our salary works, but that's not for everyone.
Right.
For a lot of other jobs, it's just a flat salary. And then if you're there for a certain amount of months or a certain amount of years, then they, give you this bonus or that bonus. And so it's good to
Or they might give you
understand.
a pay increase, right?
Yeah.
The other way that it could be is just hourly, right? It could be just an hourly job where you get paid
Mm-hmm.
by the hour, and you should do the math on that and see what that adds up to for a
Actually, yeah,
yearly.
because mine isn't even salary. Mine is actually hourly, but they give you a rough idea of what you'll be making
Mhm.
with your hourly wage, and then with your commissions and everything, you're on target. So, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
also good to understand if there's overtime allowed or if there's uh,
Vacation. A lot of companies are doing unlimited vacations now, but that doesn't mean that you can just take vacation the whole year long. It usually means that you have to
well, that's part
coordinate
of
that with your boss.
benefits,
And
right?
I'm sorry.
That would be part of benefits
Oh
is
yeah,
the
we can talk about that.
but yeah, go ahead. So that this is a benefit portion of it. Maybe what people should look for when they're searching for different benefits, it would be
Yeah.
the
Um, the vacation, yeah, a lot of companies are allowing for, they call it unlimited vacation, which is nice. There's pluses and minuses. I don't know if I like the way I said that, but there's good and bad to that, right? The good is that they typically are very flexible with the vacations that you take, and if you need to take some extra days for personal reasons, or you have a longer vacation than you normally do 1 year, then they'll be flexible and let you take that. The downside to it is that if you at some point leave the company, then there's no accrual. So a lot of times I know people that were with company for 20 years, and when they retire, they've got like thousands of dollars worth of vacation hours that they've accrued. And so they get a nice little bonus at the end of their career from those hours, something to that effect. Uh, with unlimited, it's typically just use it when you need it. You don't get any accrual.
hmm
And if you don't
yeah.
use it, there's nothing there for you to.
Which I think is I don't know, in my opinion, kind of sad because not sad, but I I really like working and I actually have not a hard time taking time off, but it's just like I think that there's always things to get done. So taking that extra day off or whatever is just kind of like stressful for me. So if it was like I did accrue hours, because at previous jobs I would do the same thing. I would accrue hours, and then when I left, I would have a nice little
Well, and
little.
the other thing that happens, another way it could be built is that they accrue them, but you get them at the end of the year. So you either use them
Yeah,
as
that's how it was for me. Like at working at Stadium, you had like all these hours and.
my light is flickering on me and I'm trying to fix it. I apologize. Now I look a little washed out, but anyway, yeah, so those are some of the benefits. The health benefits are another thing that you can look at.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know a little bit about that. There's not really a lot you can do about it if you don't not happy. I guess you could weigh that against another opportunity if someone else has better health benefits, but um, especially somebody with a family, with children, with things like that, you have to consider the benefits because it can be very expensive. Health
Hmm.
benefits can be very expensive, and some companies offer much better benefits than others. And
Along with just like stocks within the company, along with like my company offers mental health days that are paid. Um, there's just so many things to look at, especially nowadays. And so really, really dive into that and understand what you're going to be offered when working there.
yeah, what else? The job responsibilities. I think it's
Hmm.
important to know what you're going to be doing, right? You might have one expectation and then you go in there and they want you to do something completely different than what you're expecting. So I think you want to make
Yeah.
sure that you clear the air. One of the things that you and I have talked about is when you're applying for a job to look at the job description, pull the description of the job, the bullet points of the responsibilities, and align those with your experience. And you can even do a presentation back to them as a leave behind as you're interviewing. But that will help you to understand if your experience and your expectations align with their stated job responsibilities. And if you do that, then you're going to find out pretty quickly, oh no, that isn't what we want you to do. That was just one of those generic job descriptions or something. What you're actually going to be doing is this. So you want to kind of flesh that out a little bit in the beginning.
Think that was one of the biggest mistakes I made
Really, talk to me.
about like job responsibilities, like reading what I would actually be doing versus what I wanted to be doing. And not to say that those don't align right now, but it definitely took some time to understand what exactly my role was. And um, it tells you, I mean, it's right in front of your face. And in fact, I did create a whole slideshow of here's what I have done, job responsibilities. But sometimes they can get blended. Like what you would be doing as a sales rep and what I would be doing as a business development rep sounds about the same. You're pretty much making cold calls and trying to get new
Yeah,
opportunities, right? The difference is the way you do after that. And
right.
um
you're
you're
doing
not
all you're
following
doing
you're
the
not
hard work.
following the process through, you're creating the process. You're
you're
starting it.
you're doing the hard work and then doing the hard work and then doing the hard work. I'm doing the hard work and then doing the rest of the sales process and then doing the hard work and then doing the rest of the sales process and doing so you're just doing the cold calling and the prospecting, and
Which is good. And I'm very grateful that
it's
I'm
great
doing that
experience.
because, well, and it's going, whatever I do next, this is, yeah, A, great experience, and B is just preparing me for that next step. So I, I'm, I'm grateful now. In the beginning, I was frustrated because I'm like, I just want, here's what my goal is. But you're never grateful for things that are that just come to you. And this has made me so much more appreciative for what you do as a sales rep and my impact on, the opportunities. I understand my role now and how I can help, but that's not to say that I should have known what exactly I was, because I'm not in sales. I mean I work with sales and I'm part of sales, but I'm not sales, if that makes sense. I'm part of marketing. I'm
Yeah.
I'm more marketing honestly than I am sales. And we do make cold calls, we do make cold emails. We do the outreach, all of that, but yeah, that is so important to understand job responsibilities and what you'll be doing exactly. I also think it's good to understand how slash when those job responsibilities can slash will change. So when I say that, it's just understanding the ladder of the company
Mm.
and where you're at and how you can move up to where you want to be or move vertical to where you want to be or whatever it is, understanding what that process looks like and ensuring that you ask the company, is that possibility? Where's the growth? Where's the change? When
Understanding where you want to be down the road and making sure that you're aligning that with whoever you're interviewing. Like maybe you're meeting somebody that some managers don't want people to move once they get in the company. They want,
which is
they
a
want
bad
somebody.
manager.
Well, it just depends. Like maybe it's a role that they want somebody to just be in for a long time because that's important for that role. Okay, you need to understand that ahead of time because you may not want to be set in that role, or maybe you do, and
Yeah,
that's not the way they treat the role. Maybe they move people on, after a few years. So you need to understand those things.
yeah.
And
Which I will say I'm very grateful to work for a company that does value that because I am starting kind of at the bottom of where I want to be. In a sense. Well, intern was like the bottom. So maybe I moved one step up. But um I'm grateful that my manager, we set goals together. She knows my goals. She values them and encourages me to go after them.
Mhm.
And the people whose positions that I hope to be in one day also value me and understand that I want to be there. So it's making sure um, that not only are you letting people know what you want to do, but also doing everything to get there. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what
Last
about
would be
yeah,
technology.
technology?
So this one, I think that it's good to understand what platforms companies use to, go after people. So we use Salesforce. We
Wait
use,
a minute. Wait a minute. You need to qualify that a little bit.
I know,
We're
my
not
head.
using technology to go after people.
Well, for us, we are like for sales, for prospecting, but it's good to
But what do
understand the platform that
you
you're
need to explain
using
that a little bit more.
in it's good to understand what platforms you're using for the job. So I don't know what other people use, but we use Salesforce, we use D&B Hoovers, we use ZoomInfo, we use Sendoso, which I didn't know how to use any of those things prior, but now when if I were looking for a job, which I'm not, clarify that, I'm not,
Right.
but if I were someone who was going to a different company, then I would try to understand like, okay, do they use the same platforms I'm currently using, or is there going to be a learning curve when I'm adjusting to a new role as well?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that you do get used to those things, and when you go to a company that doesn't have them, then it can be frustrating, and you want to know that up front, so you go in with the right expectations.
Yep.
Are they using Microsoft Outlook? Are they using, you
Excel
know,
spreadsheets.
yeah, and what are the things, right? Or is it Google Docs? Is it Apple products? You just want to understand.
Yep.
What about, we kind of already talked about opportunities for growth, but I think this is a good thing to just have a conversation up front. Like if your plan is to grow, like for me, when I'm asked if I'm, what my goal is, am I looking to get into management, that type of thing, I'm kind of at a stage in life where I'm not really interested in that. It's just not, I've done it. I've been in management roles. I enjoy it. I love a lot about that. And I may want to do that again someday, but in the next few years, I'm happy being a salesperson and I enjoy that role and letting, someone else do the management piece. And,
And I
thank
think you're better at just doing your own thing, honestly. And not to say you're a bad manager, but I think within different roles it's good to understand where you add the most value as well, and not exactly um with yours, the next steps isn't even necessarily manager position. Although that seems like the next step, sometimes it's just outdoing your quota from the previous year. And how can I be myself? It's
sure.
not trying to juggle everyone's at the same time. And so I think that's also super important to an organization. And I
Mhm.
think that's where you do add the most value. So, but yeah, when people are looking, like, you want to understand what your goals are and how those could play within a company.
Yeah, I think it's important. And maybe you're, maybe you're looking to promote into a role that they don't have a path, to get there. So you want to know that and understand kind of what those paths are.
Yeah, like there, for me at least, there's no direct path. There hasn't been a direct path, but there are a lot of people on my team that value my growth. And that's what I was looking for when I was joining a team, is someone who values your growth within an organization. And so when you are looking to make a change, they'll be your biggest advocate. So even
Right.
if there's not, understanding what team you'll be on or who you'll be working with, and um like how much they would advocate for you
Right.
moving forward.
One of the things that, going back to for me personally, as it relates to growth, I I always thought I wanted to be in management. I do enjoy aspects of it, but what I found is that the thing that I loved about management was to develop people and help people to grow and learn. And I'm learning that I can do that as a rep as well and just mentor people or be just helpful to people on my team, to people on other teams, and just be a resource,
Yeah,
and I can
exactly.
still get that fulfilling, I can still fulfill that desire, whatever that I enjoy. All right, so let's move on. Opportunities for growth, we talked about that. What about recognition and appraisal? Is that
Well, I
important to you?
think I think we already kind of talked about that. Just looking for someone who cheers you on as a manager or as a teammate, or you know whatever it is. Just looking for people who are good at recognizing their hard workers, and also going, hey, you need to pick up the slack, or but doing it in a constructive way. That's, you want to just know who's going to be on your team or who's going to be directing you.
Well, the other thing is some companies offer things like President's Club, which is a nice trip at the end of the year if you achieve your numbers, your
Mhm.
goals, and you want to understand if they have those kind of incentives. I think those motivate me. I like the recognition. Some of that stuff is important to me. But you just want to know what that is, if that's something that matters.
Yep.
And then work-life balance, you want to know if the company values that. Some companies say they do, but don't live it out. So, talk to people as you're going through the process and see what their thoughts on what that means. For us in sales, it's almost like a blended approach where we're working and living life at the same time. A lot of times, we might be taking a call from the road to go pick up our kid from school if it's an internal call. We can do that.
Right.
but you got to make sure that that's something that your boss is okay with, that you're going to be okay doing that, and just get an understanding of how that work-life balance is going to fit into your life. And maybe some companies don't, they want you to shut your phone off. Like Nate, when he goes to work, he's expected to leave his phone in the locker and not have it on him, and he just does the job. And when he's done, he goes back to life.
Yep.
What are some other areas that you want to discuss?
I think we talked about them all.
Okay, very good. Well, you want to wrap up with something?
Um, I don't have anything.
How about favorite hobby sport? I know you played some Top Golf last night. What's your favorite hobby sport? Something you like to do that you're not doing in a competitive environment, but you enjoy doing for
Oh,
fun.
this isn't really a sport, but I really enjoy doing ceramics right now. I have taken 2 classes now, and that doesn't seem like a lot. I did it in high school and I took it as a class, but I've recently been really into it. So, yeah.
Okay, I enjoy that too. I actually took a little bit in high school, and you and I have done a class together. And if there's something about it that's very cathartic, it's like working with your hands, and
Mhm.
it's very relaxing. And then at the end, you have something to show for it. Um, I guess for a hobby sport, I'm currently doing some taekwondo, and
Yep.
that's been fun. A friend of mine recommended doing some yoga to get more limber, and I might give that a try. I'm thinking about it again.
Nice. All right. Well, that is it for today's dilemma, and we will see you next week with another one. See you guys.